Is it possible to enjoy being disciplined? Can you actually find happiness in a structured way of living? Yes, that's why I made this video. If you'd like to know how to enjoy a life of discipline, keep watching. In this video, I'll share the principles and methods behind structured living as a basis for well-being. If you want to have a healthy body and joyful mind, it requires discipline. In order to achieve our goals, it also requires discipline and consistency. But maybe we actually avoid discipline because it doesn't sound enjoyable at all. To some people, discipline equals suppression or restriction. Maybe you grew up feeling forced to abide by rules and regulations given to you from an authority figure. Maybe it was your parents or teachers who just said, just listen to me, do what I say. And those rules and regulations didn't really make sense to you. If that's your experience, you may have likely ended up hating rules, hating regulations, and hating guidelines. Essentially, hating being disciplined. After all, most of us just want to be free, right? Free to do what we want, to have no guidelines and no limitations. It's natural to want freedom and to do whatever feels good. But unchecked freedom leads to problems. Here's a story. I had a client once who wanted to find a job, but he didn't want to change his lifestyle. He enjoyed his freedom, and he had lots of time to do what he liked, playing video games. He said he felt a great deal of control because he could manipulate his video game character's life, whereas in his own life, he felt he had no control. His schedule was erratic, and he had no plan of what his day would be. It just revolved around playing video games. He knew that he had to work, he knew that he had to find work, but he was afraid to change, afraid of discomfort. He would occasionally start a task, do some job search, and plan for a little while, but then he didn't feel so free anymore. He gave up those tasks and he went back to playing video games because it was comfortable. At the same time, he felt frustrated and hopeless because he couldn't get out of this cycle and he couldn't find work. Have you had a similar experience? In this kind of situation, we're basically avoiding discipline. We're avoiding discomfort. We're avoiding sticking to a structure of behavior or plan because we feel uncomfortable with it. And we could also be avoiding facing the reality of our situation. In this way, by seeking freedom, we actually end up feeling trapped. Paradoxically, by being disciplined, by limiting our behavior, by facing discomfort, we can actually find freedom. Firstly, let's define discipline. In my understanding, discipline is when we have a clear idea of what is beneficial and what is harmful, and we choose the beneficial path, even if it's difficult. For example, if we know that going to bed when we're tired is beneficial for rest and recovery, we go to bed when we're tired, even if we really want to stay up later. If we know that when we're tired, staying up later to enjoy some more entertainment is harmful in a way, making us even more tired the next day, then we don't do that. Discipline is making the wise choice, the choice that brings benefit, not harm. Sometimes it's really hard to make the wise choice because making the unwise choice often brings some pleasant experiences, at least in the short term. For example, staying up late to watch our favorite show, binge watching the whole season, is enjoyable and exciting in the moment. Along with the show being engaging, we enjoy the social aspect of it. We're watching it with our friends or our partner, and we have some tasty food to eat as we watch the show. There's so many immediate pleasures that capture our attention that we actually become ignorant of the longer-term harmful consequences, like feeling exhausted, mentally foggy, even bloated, and emotionally low the next day. When our mind is captivated by stimulation, we forget about how resting when we're tired brings longer-term benefits the next day, like feeling well rested, energetic, mentally clear, and emotionally stable. There's an energy of habit that makes discipline difficult and seem less rewarding. We're habitually focused on immediate results, immediate gratification. Our mind becomes captivated by stimulation, and we don't see the danger of being overstimulated. This develops into where we pursue pleasure and excitement, and we avoid pain and boredom. This is actually an inherent drive, avoiding pain and seeking pleasure, which, in a way, is a function to protect our life and prevent us from getting into actual dangerous situations. For example, as humans, we've developed an instinctive response to very bitter and unpleasant tasting plants, because those plants are often poisonous, so we've learned not to eat them. Instead, we've learned to eat the mild and pleasant tasting plants, which are nutritious. This helps us survive. But in our daily lives, this survival mechanism of choosing pleasant over unpleasant has gone a bit out of control. We've become driven to crave comfort and avoid pain. So for example, I have many clients who say that because they feel bored at work, and because they work so much during the day, they feel they just don't have enough time in the day to enjoy life. So in order to make up for it, they look for fun in the evening. They stay up late, they have trouble sleeping, and then end up fatigued and more bored with work the next day. This cycle of boredom and excitement goes on day after day, week after week. This is kind of sad actually, because it seems that there's more suffering than joy with this approach to life. There's a saying in Chinese, 苦多乐少, that describes the result of living with this kind of attitude, waiting for excitement and dreading boredom. So what's the remedy for this habit of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain? How do we become disciplined? First, we design a behavioral structure that helps us to break this old pattern. Second, we practice mindfully engaging in each activity that we've planned for ourselves. The first step is to examine your current daily activity and write it down. Map it out. Look at what you actually do with your time and if it fits with what you value in life. For example, do you value health and well-being? Do you want to physically and mentally feel well? I'm guessing yes, because you're watching this video. If you value well-being, then you choose activities that bring about well-being. So after you map your daily activities, you may find that there's a whole lot of time wasted on activities that don't bring you well-being. For example, you may notice that you spend hours doom scrolling, watching things on social media that are fun but don't really give you any long-term benefit. If that's the case, you can choose not to doom scroll. Change that activity to something you value. For example, maybe you've always wanted to get fit, physically fit, but you've never took the steps to do it because you feared that you'd fail. You start by changing the mindless activity of doom scrolling to a healthy one. And let's say, in this case, you choose exercise. And once you've decided your activity, plan to try it out for a few weeks, 21 days to a month or so. It takes time to develop a new habit, so don't expect a drastic change in just 1 week. Plan to reevaluate how you feel after that period of about 21 to 30 days. During this time, expect that you'll likely need to make some adjustments along the way and even do some more research on how to exercise more correctly or wisely with a better program that suits your fitness goals. If you clearly value this activity, you know that physical well-being is important to you, you'll find it much easier to later follow through with this and be consistent. If you don't really value it, Then you may want to either find another way to exercise or plan to spend less time doing it, or reevaluate, see if you want to exercise or not. You can approach your whole day or week in this way and design a plan of how to use your time, how to live in accordance with what you value. And depending on your situation, you could change many things simultaneously or just start small. You could change one thing at a time. In general, when designing a behavioral structure for yourself, one good principle is to balance activity and rest. How and when to be active, and how and when to rest. Without a balance of activity and rest, you may become very quickly fatigued, then discouraged, and even burn out, even while trying to do all these healthy activities that you value and enjoy. The next step is follow through with your plan. This can be the most challenging part because it requires that you take action, and it requires a lot more energy. But take note, follow through with your plan wisely, and you'll be able to be consistent. Don't just use willpower. Use a skillful approach to your behavioral structure. A skillful structure is one that you value, and it's one that's suited to your condition. So if your structure is designed well, it will be much easier to follow through with it. If you find it very difficult to follow through with it, reevaluate your plan. Maybe your plan was a bit too ambitious to start. Going back to the exercise example, so if you found exercising 4 days a week was too much, you can start with once a week so that it doesn't seem so daunting and so that your body can gradually adjust to the new stimulus. After readjusting your plan, you find that it's manageable. Challenging, but manageable. And you feel good about it. Feeling good motivates us to continue and to be consistent. And our structure helps us to balance our activity. If we lose our structure, sometimes we can go overboard in the other direction and crave the feelings and results we get from even healthy activities. So in the exercise case, if we end up loving exercise and wanting to do it every day, maybe twice a day, and if we have no limits on how much we do it, we may end up obsessed with it, obsessed with fitness, obsessed with body image, and that's another problem. So that's how structure and discipline protect us. Structure prevents us from getting out of balance. As we engage in our new activities, we can also find a way to deeply enjoy it by doing it mindfully. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware of what we're doing in the present moment. It's being fully conscious of our body and mind and environment from moment to moment, not lost in thought about the past, future, or caught up judging the present experience. So going back to the exercise example, we can practice exercising mindfully and really experience joy from that. There's a joy that comes from just being present with the simplest of activities. When we're fully mindful, it's actually quite peaceful because we don't have all these distracting thoughts and disturbing emotions that come up when our mind is drifting, when we're daydreaming. But some people may still complain and say, well, it's so boring just doing the same thing over and over. It's so boring being bound by a structure. I'm doing the same thing every day. But is that true? Are you doing the same thing every day? Is it the same? Every day, every moment is actually new and fresh. We're bored because we're thinking of something else as we're doing one thing. For example, as we're exercising, maybe we're thinking about some situation at work or some relationship that we're in. We're thinking about that even in the midst of doing an exercise. We're wanting to do something else more exciting or engage in something more stimulating. That's the habit energy I mentioned before. So that's why I actually don't recommend listening to music or having conversation about unrelated things while you're doing your activity, whether it's exercise or anything. because it takes your attention away from the activity at hand. It prevents you from being mindful. So even though at first you may feel bored in this way because you're so used to being stimulated, give it a try. Try doing the activity mindfully. And if it's a little bit uncomfortable, even painful, don't resist. It can be painful to do something new, do something boring. If it's exercise, sure, it can be painful or difficult to do the exercise, or let's say it's chores, house cleaning. But experiment with just being aware of what you're doing. And just that. Don't think about anything else. Don't even think about if you like this activity or not. If it's hard or not, just be aware of it. Engage in the activity mindfully and let go of all that judgmental thinking. This is a wise way to engage with our activities, especially the challenging ones that provide a stress to us, where mindfully engaging in it, we can accept the pain as a part of a learning process. It's part of growing. With this attitude and mindful awareness of what we're doing, we'll be able to appreciate and even enjoy the activity. At least we'll be at peace with the discomfort and able to persist when the activity doesn't provide an immediate pleasant sensation. This is another way that we can use wisdom instead of sheer willpower. Willpower is using mental energy to push through unpleasant experiences. It's using concentration and mental force to ignore distraction, pain, or any extraneous desire and keep doing something single-mindedly. After a while, though, if we rely solely on willpower, we'll likely burn out. And even if we don't burn out and we persist, we may develop an angry temperament. And you may know some people, well-known influencers now, promoting willpower as the answer to everything. Willpower is the answer to life and success. But some of them look quite angry. And it makes me wonder, are they happy? Is there joy in their iron will approach to life? So be careful. Relying solely on willpower can create a host of other problems. Be mindful. Don't resist the discomfort. Be aware of what you're doing. Relax your attitude. Just accept pain as part of the process. Then you'll actually experience joy even when the sensation isn't so pleasant. It's not that you become masochistic and seek out pain as excitement or gratification. You just accept pain, accept pleasure, or even neutral feelings, and persist with the activity that you value. In this way, your mind is at peace with the process, and you find joy in consistent, mindful activity. So along the way, we will fail, meaning we won't follow through with our plan sometimes. We give up sometimes and we revert to our old habits, but that's normal. There's no need to be hard on ourselves, and there's no need to fear failure. After all, failure is just an idea, because once we've failed, it's over. We can now move on. So the next time we fail, we just go back to our plan, and we can mindfully engage in it. Once we succeed, well, that's great. But we don't have to get caught in that idea either. That success has already passed. There's still more work to be done. So regardless of success or failure, discipline is just a practice that we undertake, engaging in those activities mindfully and consistently. Well, results are both immediate and gradual. Actually, the very moment we do something, we've achieved the goal of doing it. The moment we exercise, for example, our body is already healthier in that moment, with our blood flowing, our muscles and tendons working, our mind becoming more concentrated. Our whole body and mind is beginning now to adapt to the stimulus. So the moment we choose to engage in any activity that we value, in that moment, we can be fulfilled. As another example, if you were to choose mindful sitting or meditation as something that you want to get into, something that you want to develop. The moment we sit down to meditate, in that moment, we are already more calm, relaxed, and joyful. So we don't need to wait for future results or wait for something else to happen. The results of practicing in that moment are immediate. But results are also gradual, which is obvious in that in the long run, if we do something consistency, we'll see longer term results. So if we exercise consistently now, we'll have longer term health effects, such as our strength will increase, our endurance will increase, and our overall physical well-being will be better. And if we consistently practice sitting meditation, for example, over time, we'll gradually develop a calmer, more relaxed, more wakeful state of mind. And we'll find ourselves more at peace, even with the challenging situations in life. So longer-term results are cumulative, lasting, and deeper, and will give us a strong sense of confidence in that activity that we've chosen. And if we recognize the immediate results, however minor they may seem, this can really help us, especially in the beginning stages of developing a new structured way of living. Because the more we recognize the benefit of this value-based activity, the more we'll feel encouraged to continue. So with exercise, for example, after you do your first movement, take a moment to experience, how do you feel? After you do your meditation, after you slowly get up from your chair or cushion, ask yourself, how do I feel? You can even make a note of it for the future. Because if we don't feel good after we do such an activity, we may need to reevaluate our approach or reevaluate our attitude. And once we recognize that joy is a state of well-being, we begin to rewire our old program, so to speak, and we develop a new way of being. By sticking to our structure, we let go of those habits which are driven by craving for pleasure and aversion to pain, and we actually set ourselves free. So this joy that we experience by engaging in activities that develop this mental and physical balance, this is a long-lasting joy, and it can be developed in every moment of our lives. And we can actually find that some of the things that we hated before, we may actually enjoy, because our whole way of being has changed. So with discipline, we develop joy. By enjoying it, we become more disciplined. In this way, we follow through with the activities that we value, and we live a more fulfilled life. In conclusion, discipline can be joyful. It just depends on our plan of behavior and our attitude. Living a structured life based on what we value is a basis for well-being. And by engaging in these activities mindfully, we further enhance the enjoyment of that activity, regardless of if it's difficult or not, painful or pleasant. With a mindful and structured way of living, we can find fulfillment in our daily activities. This fulfilling daily activity leads to consistency, which in the long run leads to achieving our goals. And even if some of those goals are not achieved, we're still content because we're not fixated on goals, but we're fulfilled by the process. So I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you have any comments or feedback, feel free to share. If you like this video, please remember to hit like and subscribe. For those of you who would like the help and support of a life coach, you can reach out to me at the link in the description, and we can discuss how my mentoring can be of benefit to you.